Hello friends! In this series, using the right shape, the right color, and just a little bit of detail, I'm not going to show you how to build a thing, I'm going to show you how you can build anything. My name is Jacoby, and this is the joy of building. Alright, welcome back everybody. Today we're going to try our hand at this Spanish style architecture, and today's video is an exercise in simplicity. We're going to try to achieve this look using a couple of square facades. We'll throw in a couple of arches and we'll try two different roofs on our build here to see if we can get this look across. So let's jump into our world here and see what we can create. We're going to start this build the same way we start every build, with a simple box. If you're following along at home, today's box is going to be 7 by 7, and then I'm going to go up 10 blocks. We are 11 blocks tall, and I'm going to fill this box in. This is going to be our starting box. Alright, let's make the body of our house. I'm going to come out 11 here, down 9, and then back across 15. This is really going to set the size of what will end up being the main body of our house. After I've got my box laid out here, I'm going to come up 5, so we've got a story that is 6 blocks tall, and I'm going to fill this box in as well, and there is the base for how we're going to build this house. That looks great. I hope you got your boxes looking good. Now we're going to add the roof line that's really going to define the character of this build. A parapet roof has 2 edges or more that come up beyond where the roof lays. So what we're going to do is on this end, we're going to design our parapet, and what you'll see here is that I want this design to come up 1 more block than what I currently have. Once we're happy with the basic outline of our parapet, we can repeat that pattern over here on the other side. Alright, now all we got to do is fill the gap in between these two. We're going to fill it with this green wool here that's going to represent our roof block. I'm going to go up 2 layers, and then on this 3rd layer I'm going to come all the way across. I'm going to come across 5, and then I will round it out down here at the other end of the roof. We're going to come back and add a lot more character to this roof. For right now in the shape stage, all we're trying to do is get us a shape that is a rough approximation of how we want our build to look. For this roof on the tower here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to outline the edge of the tower like this, and then I'm just going to slowly bring it in layer by layer up to the top to give us this nice hip and valley roof outline for our tower roof here. Alright, for a lot of our ideas that we saw in our inspiration world, a lot of them had really fat chimneys. So what we're going to do is we're going to add ourselves a chimney here. I'm going to make mine 3 wide initially, and then once I hit the roof line, I'm going to make it a 2 by 6. And how tall should it be? Well, that's really up to you. I'm going to take mine up past the roof line so that my smoke doesn't get caught on my roof. Down here next to the chimney, we'll put in a couple of columns. We're going to make these arches later, but for now, we'll just put in the columns to remind us that they're there. And I'm going to bring this roof line down so that it lays right across the top of them. For the front of the house here, you can see that I lost my footage for this, but I was able to salvage a little bit here so I can show you what I did. I just brought the roof out 2 blocks, then down 1 block, and then out 2 more blocks, and I put 3 little columns there to hold that roof line up. Now that we got an interesting shape, we can talk a little bit about some colors here. So you'll notice for most of these builds, they're pretty simplistic color-wise. So we're going to stick to just 2 main colors. We're going to use red for our roofs, and we're going to use white for everything else. And we'll come back and detail it a little bit later to add a little pizzazz to it, but for now we're just going to stick to those 2 colors. Alright, so for these 3 wool blocks, we will use smooth quartz. And for our green roof, we're going to put those red bricks in there. And now all we've got to do is just fill in the colors. You know, this method of building is actually pretty inefficient. I probably wouldn't build like this in a survival setting, but in this creative world, we can really play with ideas and test what looks good. And I often find that when I'm doing builds in a creative world, I'm just practicing those muscles. And while I may not use every single element of a build that I make in a creative world, I might get ideas from doing builds like this and bring those smaller elements into my survival worlds to make my survival builds more interesting. Up top here, we're gonna clean out the roof line here and put these red bricks in place. And once we've got the roof line filled out, we'll go back and we'll make this a little more interesting with some more textures to give our build just a little bit more life and a little bit more of that lived-in feel. For our second layer of colors here, I'm gonna use bone blocks and granite. And what we're gonna do with these is just add a little bit of a story detail to our build. So I'm going to start with the bone blocks, and I'm just adding them in places where I think the build might have gotten worn down a little bit over time. So on the corners, maybe hanging from the roof just a little bit, just in little patches to give some of that worn detail to our build. Where you put these blocks is not really important, just so long as you can justify the story behind why they might be there. For the roof here, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to use granite blocks, and the granite has a nice blend with the bricks. It gives it a nice kind of worn detailing, so we'll just put a couple of patches up here on the roof to really kind of signify that the roof is just worn a little bit. You know, it doesn't rain that much in the desert, but perhaps we recently received some rain and my roof is kind of wearing away here a little bit. All right, now we're going to cheat a little bit. We're going to go a little bit out of order. I'm going to come back to the roof and I'm going to change the shape just a little bit. I'm going to add a couple of slabs in some key places and some couple of stairs in some key places just to kind of change the curve of this roof. I want it to gently slope up to the apex and then round off toward the back. I'm not too hung up on the fact that this is going to be asymmetrical. There's enough of a visual barrier between the front of the house and the back of the house that it's not that big of a deal. Just so long as it's visually a little more interesting to look at than just 3 straight rows of pure blocks. On this tower roof, we're going to get really wild. I'm going to knock down almost all of this roof because I just want it to go up by half steps, not by these full steps like we currently have it. So don't be afraid to knock out a part of your build and retry it if it's just not coming together the way that you think it should. And I think with half steps, this roof looks a lot more like the look that we're trying to go for. Alrighty, now we get into the details. The details are really going to bring this build together for us. We'll add some wooden structural details. We'll complete those arches that we laid out in the beginning. We will add a couple windows with some nice overhangs, and of course we'll add our signature greenery to tie it all together. So on this roof line up here, we're really working with some limited space. So what I'm going to do is every other block, I'm going to lay down a trapdoor just to give us some structural elements for the roof to hold on to. And then once I've got those in place, I'm going to add some open fence gates. And open fence gates really give a lot of bang for your buck for such a small space that we're trying to add these elements into. And I think that once we complete this, it looks really nice around the rim there. To finish out our arches here, all I did was I added a couple of stairs to either side and I just brought them together with a trapdoor. And we did the exact same thing for our arches on the back as well. This wall right here is going to be our big kind of statement window, and I'm going to use dark oak planks for this in combination with the nether brick walls to kind of frame out my window here. I wanted to arch just a little bit at the top, and instead of using glass, I'm going to use these acacia trapdoors because I think they have a nice shutter look to them. And when you're doing these exercises, don't be afraid to branch out and use blocks that you might not think to use in a particular place if it has the look that you're going for. Across the top here, we'll add a couple of those logs that we saw poking out, and I'm going to stick some buttons on the end just because I think that's a nice little feature. And then around the side here, we'll add a couple smaller windows. These are just going to be 2 blocks tall, and we'll add a little stair across the top here being held up by that open fence gate. Now here's a nifty little trick that you can do. I'm going to make some flower boxes for the windows here, and I'm going to use a slab that has been submerged in water, and it's all being held in by the trapdoors. And when I do that, I can put some coral on top here, and it will maintain its color without dying. On the other side of the house, we got this nice flat space where we can add some really interesting features. I am a sucker for a nice round window. So we will put that round window right here using just stairs and trapdoors. And we're gonna stay with our pattern of using acacia trapdoors instead of glass so that we can get that shutter look. Underneath our round window, I want to put 3 more windows, and I would like for them to have arches, but stairs are really too large to fit in this space. So what we can do instead is use dark oak fence post, and I'm going to use hoppers to go on top. And when I tie that all together with a nice brick roof line overhang here, you can see that it gives me that arch effect that we were looking for. And I think those windows look great. We will round off the top of our parapet roof line here with just some stairs to make it look a little bit nicer, and we'll use a slab to cap it all off on the top here. Now you see here me realizing that that circle window that we just put in is way too low. It needs to go up at least 1 block for it to really look right. So don't be afraid to make large changes to your build if you think it's going to tie it together. I think by raising this window up, it will look a lot better in terms of our layout. Now, to raise that window up, we had to knock out the roof line here, and that's okay. We'll just fill it in with some stairs and some slabs. It's not that big of a deal that our roof doesn't look symmetrical, because really the eye is drawn to that lovely little window that we just put in. All right, for the chimney here, I want to add a couple of diorite blocks to the top and add a little cap on this chimney. The diorite makes it look like maybe some soot has built up as we have burnt some fires maybe in some of those cooler winter months. And it adds just a nice little touch of realism to the top of our chimney. For the back here, we've got these 2 lovely little alcoves. I'm going to put a door in one of them, and I'm just going to keep using a lot of the same blocks that we were still using. Those acacia trapdoors going to provide our backing shutters. And then over in this other little alcove, we'll put another one of those small little windows that I think fits nicely right here in this space. Up here on this square roof, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a couple of slabs straight down the middle of each slope here. And when we're detailing a roof like this, it doesn't take much to make a big difference in terms of the shape of your roof. So I think adding just a few slabs have really brought a lot more interest to how this roof is shaped. Here you see how I put together the front porch. Unfortunately, this is a part of the footage that I lost, but you can see I ended up adding some yellow concrete and yellow terracotta to just give a little pop of color for where I think the front door should be. And then we added the front door the same way that we added the back door on the back. And I got just a couple of chairs here and a nice little table to kind of round out our front patio. I think that looks nice. And now it's time to add our signature foliage. I love putting vines on builds because I think it really ties them together. And when I'm placing these vines in, I just think how would they grow naturally? They'd be real fat at the bottom, and then they would get thinner and thinner as they work their way up the build. Sometimes they wrap around objects, sometimes they droop and hang down low. Just however you think a vine might naturally grow on your build. Last but not least, we'll jump inside here and we'll get rid of all this extra wool that we had laid out, and now we've got a nice big space for our chest and our bed and our crafting tables and all of our lovely devices so that we can go out there and explore the world. Right, so there you go. We did not do a whole lot in terms of complex building. We had 2 shapes and we used 2 colors, and I think we did a really good job of achieving that Spanish revival look. So I hope you had fun, and thanks for building with me. Give me a like and a follow if you wouldn't mind, and we will see you next time.